Good afternoon. Welcome to another installment of Monday Motivation. For all the fathers that are watching this, I want to wish you a belated happy Father's Day. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. And be a reminder that on Tuesday evenings we have Parenting Through Pandemic. If you want to address some of the pressing and difficult issues that are raised in parenting at this time. Today, with Monday Motivation, unfortunately, we will not be joined by Janet Broadwell, our nurse, who also helps us with our dietary questions. She has a prior conflict. Today, we're going to focus on boundaries and balance. So, without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Dave, who will set the tone. And finally, Lisa Bouvet, mental health counselor, will offer her wonderful tips for this Monday. Have a blessed week and thank you for joining us. Pastor Dave?
Okay. So I wanted to keep things short and sweet today. And I thought, what better place than to start with Jesus? I know, shocking, right?
Bunch of pastor.
Well, I know, right? I was wrestling with this idea of balance and boundaries, and of course, who else better to look at than Jesus Christ himself? Yes, he was God, or is God, so there is that. But I think he did set a good example for many of us about a healthy lifestyle. So the things that he ate, he would have eaten very healthy. He would have done a lot of relaxing, in between all the different ministry opportunities. He took the sleep he needed. There were times when he even slept in boats during a storm. He obviously walked a lot, as there were not vehicles to be running around with. So the exercise would have been extremely important. So he had personal needs that were very healthy. You look at throughout Scripture, especially Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you find receiving support from friends, times that he needed to be with loved ones and just surrounded by companions. He enjoyed solitude, so he obviously took the time to recharge when he needed to recharge. The thing that hit me the most was, I think when life most likely got most overwhelming, he had this tendency, instead of being paralyzed with fear, we as Lutherans believe that Jesus very likely knew why he came to earth, why he came and became human, and eventually knew the plan that eventually was going to lead to his death. I can only imagine how paralyzing that would have been. So in the midst of knowing all of that, I think one of the things that he probably had to learn early on was to let go and let God. Focus on the task at hand, and what he couldn't be in control of, to give that to God. That's what you find in the prayer of Gethsemane. When he is with the disciples, he invites them all, three of them, to come and stay up with him while he prays, and they keep falling asleep, right? I think it's the end of book of Mark, maybe chapter 14. He keeps coming back and he's sharing his frustration that how can you not stay awake? And he's praying these prayers that are so deep, I guess. It's almost like he's crying tears of blood. I remember that. And at the end of that, he is able to just give it to God, to let the cards fall where they may, and get up, let's get going. We've got something to do. And so even in the midst of his worst time, he gave it to God. And I see that as a helpful opportunity for us to learn that when those boundaries get skewed, when we feel out of balance, maybe to take a moment and consider, is it something that we can control? And if it's not, how can we let go and let God? I've experienced that a lot in trying to even craft a sermon that people won't look at as political or an agenda. I've lost a lot of sleep, and it's exhausting. But what ultimately I came to these last 2 weeks is that, I can't control how you are going to perceive my words. The best I can do is stay true to who I am and to who I believe God is for us. and let the cards fall where they may. So I see that as a great opportunity for us in our relationships. All we can do is be true to who we are and who we believe Christ is leading us to be. And how people perceive us is really up to them. So that was very freeing to me. That was helping restore some balance in my warring mind. So there's your word of the day.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about balance and boundaries. Balance and boundaries seem to go well together. When we feel balanced, it is easier for us to set healthy boundaries that are helpful for us and to our family. Although we cannot control what is happening in the world, we can certainly control how we spend our time. Setting healthy boundaries can also help us be more compassionate and even help us listen better when interacting with others. Remember that too much of anything can be unhealthy and unproductive. So let's start with some basic ideas about how to find more balance in our lives. First of all, be realistic with your time. It is not possible for anyone to do everything all the time. There's only so much you can do in a day. If you're trying to cram too much in your schedule, you will raise your anxiety and then you will lose focus. So be intentional about how you schedule your time. The second thing is to let go of guilt. We certainly can do guilt well. The feeling that we should do something is the worst. It makes us feel trapped. If you don't want to go somewhere, don't go just because you were invited or because you don't want others to feel lousy. Take the pressure off of yourself. Next, make choices. Decide what's really important for you. Decide what you believe in and then do it. We must prioritize things. Instead of saying, I don't have time, perhaps you can say, this isn't a priority for me right now. Then, choose quality over quantity. Often we look at how much we do and not what we are truly doing. Make sure that you're actively present in the moment, no matter what it is that you are doing. The fifth one is get organized. I can't say it enough. A routine just makes us feel better. It creates a space for what you want to do and for who you want to spend time with. Lastly, unplug from technology. We have email on our cell phones for convenience sake. Because of that, we sometimes feel that we must respond immediately. So make some limits and set timers for when you're going to respond to emails, when you're going to respond to texts. Decide to make a rule for yourself. It's important to feel that balance in our life. That helps us to begin to set healthier boundaries. We have never experienced a pandemic before. We have never had to isolate ourselves and be separated from our friends and from some family members. Now we have the go-ahead to begin to assimilate back into society. But we're nervous, and we ask ourselves, just because we are allowed, does that mean that we should or that it's healthy? So do your research. Collect data from a variety of reputable sources. There's no clear answer on what someone should do. Often we wonder, is it really safe? Should I really go out to eat? Is it okay to have people over to my house? Before you can decide on these things and decide the boundaries that you want to set for yourself, you must have a discussion with your partner. The two of you must decide what your boundaries are. I know it's confusing, but you must have that conversation. This is not a one and done conversation. This is something you discuss, and then you think about it, and then you discuss it again. Only then can you make a decision that works for both of you. So weigh your options. Look at the big picture. You might need to reconsider this decision every few weeks because so much continues to change. Once you feel safe and you've decided on those boundaries, you need to communicate those to others. Be clear and straightforward. Try not to over-explain or apologize for what your decision is. So you might try language such as this. When both your parents are trying to get you to allow them to see the kids, you might say something like, I know you really want to see the kids. We'll let you know when we're ready to bring the kids over. I know you feel differently, but this is our decision. I hope you can respect that. Sometimes we get exhausted and overwhelmed. In the past, we've been able to say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do that. We have to take the kids to soccer, or we have to take the kids to art class. But we don't have to do that anymore. And even online Zoom meetings and online play dates can be exhausting. And it's difficult to get out of some of those things. So give yourself permission to set limits on those invitations. It's okay to say something like, that sounds like fun, but unfortunately, it's not going to work for me. Or you might say, thank you for thinking of us. We're a bit overloaded, so we're going to have to pass today. Please invite us again. When you're trying to communicate how you feel about social distancing and the rules that you and your partner have decided upon, you might begin to say something like, I respect your opinion. We have decided that we're going to continue social distancing. Or, I appreciate that you would like to get together in person. However, we're still deciding what that looks like for our family. What we need to do is we need to be respectful of other people, but we also need to make those decisions based on what we think is right for our family. There is no one right or wrong answer. So decide what that looks like for you and then communicate it. As I said earlier, finding balance feels so much easier when we set those healthy boundaries. Both balance and boundaries go together. I hope this has been helpful for you. I look forward to speaking with you again next week. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you very much for participating or viewing this June 22nd installment of Monday Motivation. We are blessed with a very rich conversation. Pastor Dave reminded us of keeping our focus on the example of Jesus Christ and trying to keep balance and boundaries in our life when everything seems to be in so much chaos and so divided, that we turn again to the example of Jesus to give us some focus on how best to live out our days. Next, Mike Bouvet shared and kind of really opened himself up to questions from those who participated in trying to, again, utilize balance in keeping our bodies as well as our mind and spirit as we struggle to keep ourselves focused and online. Finally, Lisa shared wonderful tips for us, again reminding us of the importance of routine, of a schedule, of realizing that God's in charge and that we need to respect that not everybody that's using Facebook or social media is really wanting to reach for any type of agreement or dialogue, that sometimes it's just a megaphone for kind of spouting off one's angry beliefs, as we're all a little bit frustrated as we continue through this unprecedented time. So thanks again for everyone for joining us. We hope that you'll be with us next Monday, the 29th of June, for another installment of Monday Motivation. Tomorrow evening at 7:30, Parenting Through Pandemic will be offered. We welcome anyone who's parenting, whether they are parents of small children, teenagers like myself, or have already parented kids to full age. We recognize that parenting never ends, that we're always a resource and hopefully a source of responsibility and values for those who reach out to us. So please join us for that. If you're not able to, I still wish that you have a wonderful week, a wonderful opportunity to share God's grace, love, and forgiveness. We'll see you again next week for Monday Motivation. God bless. Bye-bye.